What is going on, guys? Nick Moore from the PHP Pros. Welcome to installment 2, episode 2, whatever you want to call it. Today we'll be going over the WAMP environment so that we can set up our local web servers. So the first thing you're going to do once you have MAMP installed is it's going to download into your applications folder if you're on Mac OS, of course. And what you want to do is you don't want to click on the Pro, that's a Pro version. We're just going to use the free Community Edition. So go ahead and click into MAMP. And here is this icon right here is the executable, which means this is the place that you can click to start the application. So I already double clicked it, so when you double click it, something like this is going to pop up. Alright, so the first two things you're going to see are this Apache server and this MySQL server. Like I mentioned yesterday, these are two vital pieces to setting up our web server. So what you're going to want to do anytime that you open MAMP and you're ready to start programming, the first thing you're going to want to do is start up these servers right here. It may ask you for your password. Sometimes it does if you want to start or stop those servers. And it should just be the password to your computer. So now when these get started up, it's going to open up the web page. And so this is your main web page for MAMP. And so now we have a web server running on our local machine. The way you can tell is by looking at this link right here, localhost, which means your local machine. And when I say local machine, I mean your computer. It's just a word that I've gotten used to saying. So the first thing that we're going to do is get familiar with this and the tools that it comes with. My website is the actual place where you can start to go see your code live on the server. We'll go back to that in a second, but this is very important to keep in mind these two right here. PHP Info, this is a little bit more advanced. This will tell you all the packages and the versions you have for your current version of PHP that is running on the server. If you want to update it and all that stuff, you certainly can. But if you ever need to know, hey, do I have this package, called curl installed? Yes, you can go check out this page right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you all that stuff, all these packages, all your settings, and so on. But like I said, that's more advanced. There's no need to dig deep into that right now. But this right here, PHPMyAdmin, this is a MySQL client that is stored on the server. So we can tap into our local database directly using this. And I'll walk you guys through this as well, but this is the most important tool that you're going to want in addition to the MAMP and the code editor that we'll be using. So now that we've got our local environment set up, we now have our web server running. The next thing that we need to install is called Atom. It is an IDE or a code editor. An IDE stands for an integrated development environment. Essentially, it has all the libraries and packages that you're going to need for programming in Python, PHP, which we'll be using it for. So if you go to atom.io, it'll automatically tell you to download the right one for your operating system. Mac OS, you just click this download. It's going to say the same thing if you're on a Windows computer. So go ahead and download that. Okay, so now that we have Atom installed on our local machines, for you Mac OS users out there or Linux users, I'm going to show you a quick, cool way to open up Atom and start developing so that you can show your friends and stuff. If you're on Windows, you're either going to have to use git bash or skip ahead a couple seconds and I'll show you how to open it from the application as well. So we'll go ahead and this is what we're going to do. CD, which is a command to change your directory. We're going to change our directory and we're going to go into /applications. Okay. All right. And then we're going to go cd mamp /htdocs/ and there we go. So now what we're going to do is this is going to show you all your current projects by typing ls. ls is a listing bash command. So what we can do now is make a directory. We can say mkdir and then we can call it whatever we want. We can call it PHP Pro. Okay. So now that we have ls again, we can now see that from the command line we just created a directory in our file system. Okay. So now what we can do is take it one step further and say, okay, cd into PHP Bro. So we're going into that new folder that we just created. And now something really cool about Atom is you can simply type Atom and dot. And what this is going to do, now that you'll see it working, is Atom is automatically going to open up for you because we just ran the executable via bash commands. So if you guys were following along on Mac OS or Linux, we now have Atom open in our directory that we just created called PHP Pro. If you are on a Windows machine or you did not follow this step, no big deal at all. Just open Atom using the icon like you would any other application such as Google Chrome or Internet Explorer. So go ahead and say open, and you need to locate this htdocs folder. The reason that htdocs is such an important folder is because when our web server runs, this is the root directory that it uses to serve up the application on the front end. Many other servers such as Linux, and depending on the operating system that you use, the flavor if you will, you can set it up to be in var ww html, you can set it up to be in home, you can set it up to be in public HTML, but for MAMP and what we're using right now, it uses a folder called htdocs. So anything that we want to create in there in terms of our projects must be in this directory. So we'll go ahead and open up that folder if you were just on Windows. So now with the web server up and running and Atom open, we're ready to write our first line of code, and we can display it in the web browser. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a file right here. So you can say new file, and then what you're going to want to call it is index.php. And the reason that you want to call it index is because Apache, our web server, is automatically configured to use index.php or index.html as the primary file that it's going to call. So now that we have index.php settled and we're ready to write our first line of code, what we can do is come back over here to the manager for MAMP that was started in the web browser. If you click here on my website, it's going to show you the same thing that we saw us Mac users and Linux users, the directories or the projects that we have within htdocs. So if you go ahead and click on PHP Pro, it's going to bring us to index.php in the browser. Nothing showing up because we haven't written anything, but let's go ahead and write our first line of code. So PHP files always start with a tag that looks like this, PHP, and they always end with a tag that looks like this. So anything inside of these two brackets, if you will, is PHP code. Okay. So now what we can do is we can say echo hello world. And you can just say Command S, Control S, or file save. Come back over here, refresh, and there you go. You just wrote your first program in PHP. This wraps up this video. The next video I'm going to get more into tutorials on PHP itself. You guys can follow along as well by using a tutorial at w3schools.com. It is a great tool to learn on. They have tutorials for pretty much all the languages that we're going to be covering, and their PHP one is great. I still use it sometimes. I also recommend php.net. That is for the more advanced PHP topics, but with that being said, go ahead and look over W3 Schools version of the PHP tutorial. And in the next installment, we will be going over to that lesson plan and writing more code.